Once again, we're working on the R36, and this time we are putting in the AliExpress tinted wing mirror indicators. Now these particular ones are the LED Flow type, which really first appeared on the Audis and now are actually quite everywhere. Then Hyundais and Kias and Jaguar, they're all over the place. I'll just give you a quick look at what they're like. So there you go. So as you can see, they're a pretty smooth arrangement. They are actually quite bright. Doesn't look so bright in this camera, but I can tell you certainly in the daylight and even at night they are quite bright. Now I've started by pulling the wing mirror assembly apart first, and that's because there's plenty of YouTube videos on how to actually get that apart. And to be honest, with this whole job, the hardest part is actually getting that casing off. Tilting and adjustment, and it also comes with the heating. So the heating is these two wires here, which actually clip onto the mirror itself. So it's important to take them off. And in order to get the base section off on the mirror, the black underside, there's two screws which go down like that, and you have to take this motor off in order to get to those screws. So the order really is take the shell off, or sorry, take the glass off, take the coloured shell off. There is 3 screws in this motor, and you will need to actually push the motor to get to the screw once it's unscrewed so you can get it out. So once the motor's out, there's 2 screws going down that way. You can take those 2 screws out, and then the indicator and the black bottom assembly will come apart. The Express indicators come packed really well. They also come with this plastic prying tool, which you'll need definitely to get the coloured shell off. These are the original ones, but yes, it comes with that, and it's actually very easy to get these off, and they're well packed. The underside is this is the black underside, so this is the driver's side mirror we're looking at. And if I grab one of these indicators, let's have a look. Yes, so the indicator fits in like that. So to actually release the indicator from the black underside, there's a little push clip, and all you have to do is release that clip, and then the indicator comes away. There's also a black outer shell. The black outer shell has a couple of push clips at the top, one there, one there. So you just have to squeeze them together with a pair of pointy nose pliers, and then the underside of this shell slips into those grooves there. So once you release the top 2 clips, you can move to the bottom and literally slide this black mask straight off. Now, just for interest, for those that want to do the puddle lamps, I haven't changed these out for LEDs. I quite like the yellow incandescent, but if you do have the puddle lamps and you've got the mirror off, it actually makes it quite easy to get to. There's just that one screw in there, and you take that out and the whole assembly comes out, and you can unplug it with a 2-pin connector. So right now I'm actually going through and using my auto glim to go through and just blacken everything up again and freshen everything up, and I'll give the mirror shells a polish, and then I'll put them back on. Alright, so now we're going to start the reassembly process. So I'm taking the lower piece of my mirror here, and I'm going to put it in there, and there's a couple of guide pins on the indicator lens which go into that hole, because that's where our screws will go. So we just want to, the first thing we want to do is just make sure we get that snapped into place, and then you've got a nice alignment underneath. You can see with the gap that these AliExpress indicators are actually a really great fit. I mean, completely OEM if you like. They're perfect. Okay, so now the next step is we're going to do the inside shroud. Add 2 Torx screws back in to keep the lens in. We just want to grab these locating pins here and here, and make sure that in the front of the metal body, one goes in there and the other one sits in front of this lug here. One of the locating pins has come through there, and there's the front section sitting in front of the metal guard, and then with the mirror in its lock position, you can now see the lens is a nice flush fit. In place, we've got our 2 Torx screws. to secure the bottom section. And now it's time to put the motor back in place with the 3 screws. Now these are machine screws, so don't get them confused with the plastic screws which have a thread like a wood screw. So we're going to go and put the motor back in now. Notice that the motor goes on a specific way, and the multi-pin connector needs to be down here around 7 o'clock, between sort of 6 and 7 o'clock. I've got the other 2 screws in. Now this stuff it's just muck metal. So you definitely don't want to cross thread these machine screws. So the best practice, just to make sure you get the thread right, is spin it in reverse like you're undoing it, and just put a bit of gentle pressure towards the car, and you'll hear a click. That means that the thread has gone backwards and it's now ready to go in, and then you can just tighten it up. You don't want to over tighten these screws because they're not bearing any weight. It's just to stop the thing from rattling and falling apart. And certainly, not that you're going to have your mirrors on an awful lot, but certainly the last thing you want to do is over tighten it and strip that thread. So the next piece of the puzzle is the black shroud. So you just want to get these ears and line them up with those guides. And we'll do that from underneath here. Yep. Okay. And then you'll come over the top and you'll see that those tangs have to come through these holes here. So we just give them a gentle push until they go click, like that. And then these guides should actually go all the way home, which they are. So you just want to push it back, and they'll rest on those same posts that this base rested on. Okay, so now we're ready for the second last step, and that is the mirror shell. So you can see I've got it just positioned. It's nice and clean. In fact, it's a little bit slippery because I've used a lot of wax, but it has this guide in here, that guide there, which sits on there. So what you actually want to do is position it with the hinge side almost located. Sorry, I'll get a better angle on that. You want it almost located in its factory position, which is sort of how it would sit when it's fully connected. The other thing you want to do too is the front of the mirror, the front underside lip, has to sit over the top of these tangs here. So when you're actually putting the mirror casing on, you want to put the hinge side down first, and then bring your hand around the front and just gently pry the lip out of the blue mirror cover, and just make sure that it sits over those tangs, because the mirror will sit flush with that edge. There's also a clip here that the mirror clips onto, and another clip here off the indicator that the mirror clips onto. This is where, when you're undoing it, you're prying with the plastic prying tool. Once you get it on the hinge and you get it over the lip, the rest of the mirror shell just clips into place. So let's just have a go at that. Tip for when you're reinstalling, what I've actually found is that these clips on the AliExpress lights, they're not quite proud enough to sit over that lip. And this one as well. You can see here, I've actually forced them into place by pushing the clip above that ledge. But what I found is when putting the mirror shell on, what happens is you can't get that clip all the way to the ledge, and it actually sits down a bit like that, exposing the white shell of the light. So it doesn't actually look like it fits that well. So what I've had to do is take the mirror motor off. So the motor that moves the mirror around, take that off, and there's an access hole to get to this. This one is readily accessible. This one can only get to once the mirror motor's off, so it's okay. Take the mirror motor off, 3 screws, 1 plug, and then what you can do is you can sort of twist the shell towards the front of the indicator lens while pushing this tab, and the same with this one as well. And then what you find is you end up with a flush finish like this one. Because what was happening with the tabs is that this light, or this shell, was sitting up, and it was running a white line through there. So in the end, it's actually quite a nice finish. So on reassembling the mirror, these are the tabs I was talking about. So they just need to come out just a little bit more, just in order for it to grab the mirror lip, and this one as well. And this is the access hole I was talking about. So take the mirror motor off, and that way you can get through here, and when the cap is on, you can just give that tab a gentle push, and this one, of course, you can get to no problem from within the mirror. But yes, this is the access hole you want. The mirror tension guide has worn the grease away. Just get the grease and spread it around again, and it just helps to make the mirror move smoother. For those of you that may not have done it before, the grease is gone. Sometimes you'll notice your mirror will sort of jerk a bit when it's moving or sort of jump. The grease, just spread the grease around. It'll just help it to be. And there we have the finished product, guys, girls.